Hello. Welcome to CXO-Talk. I am Michael Krigsman with my co-host, Vala Afshar. Vala, how are you?
I'm great. I'm a little bit stunned with that intro, but go ahead.
And Vala, we are going to have a very interesting show today.
Honored. I cannot wait for the show to begin. So please, with the introductions, Michael.
We are here today with Vivek Ranadive, who is the founder, chairman, and CEO of the software company TIBCO, as well as the lead owner of the Sacramento Kings. Vivek, how are you?
Good, thanks. Pleasure to be here with you guys. You know, my two favorite hosts in Boston, in fact, one of them just passed away, were these MIT guys. I think they were called Click and Clack. And they were auto experts. And I might have to update kind of that. You guys are awesome. Mike and Vala, I love it. Thank you for having me.
As we were saying before the show, all that really matters here is that I'm the nice co-host and he's the ugly co-host. If you can remember that, then we're totally good.
That's awesome.
So Vivek, tell us briefly about your entrepreneurial history, your background, how you came to found TIBCO. And I say briefly, it's a very long and an interesting story, but just set the stage.
Sure. So I grew up in Bombay. I know Vala's from Iran, and the pivotal moment in my life was when I was a little boy. It was many years ago, and it was the middle of the night. I had my ear plastered to a little transistor radio, and I heard these magical words: "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." And it was at that moment that I thought about it. Who were these people that were able to put a man in a box and send him 250,000 miles away to land on a rock flawlessly the first time? What brilliance, what perseverance, what courage, what creativity. And so as a little boy, that was the pivotal moment in my life when I decided that I wanted to study science and technology. I wanted to come to America, and that's how my journey started. Now I went to Boston. I know where you guys are from, and I went to MIT, studied engineering, kind of followed my dreams, and I was a hardware engineer, but was frustrated with how software was done. And so I came up with this notion that why not do hardware, software like you do hardware. So if you look at a computer or a chip, there's a backplane or a bus, and you plug cards into it. So the big idea I had was to create a software bus, and that's how my journey started. And of course, you know, now the bus pretty much runs some of the largest companies in the world. And if the bus went down, then banks would stop, and airlines would stop, phone companies would stop, and that became TIBCO.
Vivek, you've written several New York Times and global best-selling books. Your latest is The 2-Second Advantage: How We Can Succeed by Anticipating the Future. Can you talk to us a little bit about that concept and also the fact that you love basketball, but how that love of basketball came about was somewhat of an unusual circumstance?
Well, that's right. So the 2-second advantage is a very simple premise that a little bit of the right information just a little bit beforehand is more valuable than all the information in the world 6 months after. What's the point of knowing that you've lost a customer after the customer is gone? What's the point of knowing that there's going to be fraud committed after you lose the money, or that there's going to be a power outage when you're already sitting in darkness? So it's really about getting that right information beforehand, combining it with historical insights, and then being able to take advantage of opportunities or prevent disasters. And so that's kind of the premise behind the 2-second advantage. And of course, our technology helps do all of that. Now, in terms of basketball, I grew up in India, so I never actually touched a basketball. And about 10 years ago, as a single dad, I wanted to find ways to spend more time with my 11, 12-year-old daughter. So I foolishly volunteered to coach her basketball team. So I showed up at this gym. It was a huge facility in Redwood City, and I looked around the room, and there were all these other coaches, and they were ex-Division I, 7 foot tall Stanford players, Duke players, and then there was me. And they had also given me the girls that nobody else wanted. They had this thing called a draft that I didn't know about at the time, and they drafted all the best players and gave me the girls that no one wanted. So the first day I stood there in front of my daughter and her friends. I was terrified that I was going to make a complete fool of myself. Literally, I didn't know what a layup was. So I just looked at the girls and said, girls, today we're just going to run. And so I made them run for the whole hour. Now, I went back to the drawing board, and being a math guy, I converted the game into a math equation, and I hate to lose, so I figured out a way that we ended up winning every single game and taking the team to the national championship. So that was how my love for basketball started.
That's amazing. I watched the 60-minute piece, and as someone who actually played varsity basketball, and I loved the sport. I mean, loved the sport. I couldn't believe that a full court press and the ratio of turnovers would ultimately dictate a winning strategy. That was brilliant. So absolutely brilliant.
So Vivek, at TIBCO Now, your user conference, you spoke about something that you call Civilization 3.0, and you spoke about 5 different forces: extreme service, mobility, the rise of social platforms, and the growth and expansion of Asian economies. So maybe give us a sense of what that is, what were you driving at with that, and why does it matter? Why is it important?
Yeah, so I believe we're entering a really new, exciting era, and I call it Civilization 3.0. Civilization 1.0 was the start of modern civilization as we know it, and people were farmers, shopkeepers, painters. It was really the age of the artisan. Now, with the Industrial Revolution, we ushered in Civilization 2.0, and it became the age of the corporation, and it was all about corporate efficiency. We're now living in a time when the world's largest bookseller has no bookstores, the world's largest music seller has no music stores, the world's largest taxi company owns no cars, the world's largest hotel company owns no hotel rooms. So we're entering this era that I call Civilization 3.0, and in many ways it's back to the future where the individual contributor can now reach large audiences. And so it's the age of extreme service, and it's all about delivering that extreme value. And in many ways, it ends up looking like the basketball team that I have. So I believe that as you think about Civilization 3.0, you have to understand what are the forces that are driving this new era, and how do you harness those forces. And as you mentioned, there's 5 forces. One is the explosion of data. So if you look at the amount of data that's been created from the beginning of mankind till a couple of years ago, and you call that X, and then you look at the last couple of years, it's 10X. And that trend will only continue where there's an exponential increase in the amount of data being created. The second is the rise of mobility. So it took 100 years for there to be a billion landline phones, it took 10 years for there to be a billion cell phones, and just 1 year for there to be a billion smart cell phones. So now we live at a time where very soon billions of people on the planet will have these smart cell phones, and each cell phone will have more computing capacity than NASA had when they put man on the moon more than 40 years ago. Now the third force is the emergence of platforms. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, the iPhone App Store, where individuals can now reach large audiences. It used to be that you had to be a large corporation to do that, but now you can get on Twitter, or you can get on Facebook or the iPhone App Store, and all of a sudden you can reach tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people. The fourth force is the emergence of the Asian economies. A few hundred years ago, China and India were about 2/3 of the world economy, and most economists say that at some point in the century we'll revert to that kind of situation. And the fifth and final force, and that's kind of my favorite, is I call it math trumping science, where you don't have to know the why, you simply have to know the what, as in what is the pattern. If A and B happen, then there's a high likelihood that C will happen. So when scientists were trying to find how the AIDS virus mutated. They tried for years and years and they couldn't figure it out. They converted it into a math problem, put it into a game called Folded, and within a week, gamers had found the answer. So when you look at these 5 forces and you say, okay, what does that mean for my business? And in many ways, and I think, Vala, you'll get a kick out of this, every business looks like my basketball team. So when I look at a basketball team and people say to me, well, you're crazy, why would you spend so much money on a basketball team? I look at them and say, well, no, I think it's undervalued. It's really not a basketball team. What it is a social network, and it's tied to perishable inventory. So if you think about it, every business is a social network. It's really your ecosystem of customers and fans, and then all your products are perishable. So whether you're selling basketball tickets, airline tickets, hospital beds, hotel rooms, consumer electronics, they're all perishable. They decline in value. So the companies of the future are going to use technology to engage and capture and expand that social network on the one hand, and then marry that to all of that perishable inventory on the other. And when you look at businesses like Uber, they've really cracked the code. And I like to talk about how every business will get Uberized in the future in Civilization 3.0, where the cost of supply is free and the cost of demand is free. So when you're able to do that, then you've created a Civilization 3.0 company.
Sure, sure.
So when you were looking at the Sacramento Kings, you were viewing it from this perspective that you just described.
Yeah, I looked at it and I said, wow, this is an amazing social network. And I'm a huge sports and a huge basketball fan. And of course, the context, there was more context to it in that I was involved with the Warriors. I live in the Bay Area. And the mayor and the people in Sacramento called me and said, help us keep this team in Sacramento. It's a well-known story that Steve Ballmer was going to buy the team and move it to Seattle. Now Sacramento is our state capital. It has no other sports team, doesn't have a football team, doesn't have a baseball team, and the basketball team was the whole deal for the city. Now I came to California with no money, and so everything I have I owe to this country, and I owe to the great state of California. So at some point I said, maybe this is something I need to do. Maybe I need to buy the team, build an arena, keep the team in Sacramento, and that's what I ended up doing. And we have the very, very best fans in the world. Now, in terms of the values and so on, yes, basically when you think of it as a social network, then the value is multiples greater. And the other factor to consider is that, look, in 15 or 20 years, will I still be using my iPhone? I don't know. But will I still be watching NBA basketball? Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
And that's the value of a sports team.
Well, I mean, you played, there's a premium, 500 million plus, I think it was May of last year, and of course investments in the new stadium, if I'm not mistaken, and purposefully keeping it to a 17,000 intimate size. So even though you see the potential and the power of the social network, it's not all about size. It's about keeping a connected, well-engaged community. And that's a challenge in sports. The NFL is a client of mine, and because of high-definition television and just the cost of taking a family to a game, you've had steady decline of in-stadium attendance, even for the most popular sport in the country. So as you think about cultivating this social network, especially with the exciting new stadium, what are your thoughts in terms of making sure that every fan's got a computer with them now? And I don't care what Mark Cuban says. Good luck telling a kid who checks the phone 400 times a day that you can come to a game and get disconnected for 3 hours. That's just not reality in my view. But how are you thinking about this challenge and really engaging the incredible Kings fans that you have?
Yeah. So first of all, I just wanted to say that I believe that basketball will be the premier sport of the 21st century. Awesome. It's a sport that can be played indoors and outdoors. It can be played by one person, by a few people. It can be played by boys, by girls. It can be played in cities. It can be played in villages. You don't need a lot of space like you do for a cricket field. It can be played in rich countries and poor countries. And without question, it's the greatest show on earth. When you see a basketball game up close, and you see the sheer athleticism, the action, just the nonstop excitement. So I believe that basketball will be that global sport. Football has competition because of soccer.
Right.
Football has competition, and so those are largely American sports. Whereas basketball, the audience is only growing. It's there's over. We were just in China where we played the Nets, and there's 300 million plus players of basketball in China. They have 330 million players, more than the population of the United States. So that's just one element. Now we want to also engage our social network, and whether you're sitting in the arena or you're walking through an airport somewhere, you should be part of that experience. This is the 21st century communal fireplace. This is where people come together to enjoy, to celebrate, to be entertained. And we're also building, as you mentioned, the world's smartest building with our new arena. It's going to be the first arena that's going to be both indoors and outdoors. It's going to have more bandwidth, more computing capacity. The whole arena is going to check into you. So it's going to eliminate all the friction. How you get to the arena, where you park, how you get to your seat, which is the shortest line to the bathroom. It'll be ticketless. It'll be frictionless. In fact, you won't even have to pull your phone out. That's too much work. So the arena will recognize you as you walk in and knows who you are. So we're trying to create the world's greatest communal fireplace. It's going to be this iconic structure, and we believe that we can extend that out beyond the 17,500 people within the arena and include all of King's Nation in that network.
Okay, let's connect some dots here. Okay, so earlier you were talking about every business being a social network tied to perishable inventory, and all inventory is perishable, and the need to optimize that perishable inventory with a connection to social networks. And this connects to your view of basketball and to the Kings as one of the perspectives that you were looking at it during that initial period. So maybe bring this together for us and to parse it. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that concept of perishable inventory, and then let's try to again link it back to sports and the fan experience and so forth.
Sure. So just tying that all together within sports. If you're at one of my games and you tweet you had cold pizza, then we pick it up. But then we also know that you're there with your family, your kids. You're coming to the next game. You don't have parking for the next game. We have excess VIP parking, which is perishable, and it's late in the third quarter, and it turns out we have too many hot dogs for the game. We're not going to be able to sell them out. And your kids have historically liked hot dogs. So even before you have a chance to become unhappy, we'll give you parking for the next game, we'll give you some hot dogs. It's all perishable inventory, and we'll make you happy. So that's something that we are doing with retailers. We're doing with just about every single industry imaginable. So how do you marry your asset base and your perishable products to your customer base in the most optimal fashion, so that you keep your customers really happy. Now, one of the things that makes owning a sports team unique is that if you're running a bank or you have an airline or you have hotel rooms, then you have customers. Now, as an owner of the Kings, I have fans. Big difference. Fans will paint their face purple.
Right.
Fans will evangelize 24/7.
Right.
Fans are engaged.
Sure.
Fans are talking about the Kings all the time. So what every business is striving to be a business that can convert its customers into fans.
Right.
And that's where technology comes in. If you can engage and if you can give people exactly the right offer at the right time at the right place. And we have a secret sauce, I call it a psychological router, where we're able to pick up sentiment and say, okay, what things do we have to do to convert that sentiment into intention?
Right.
So sentiment might be that I'd like to buy a set of golf clubs. Now, what do I need to do in order to convert that into, I will buy a set of golf clubs? And what do I have to do to convert that into, I bought a set of golf clubs?
Sure.
So we look at a lot of information. We look at, where you are. Are you walking towards the store? Are you walking away from the store? We might look at, are you using an iPhone? Are you using an Android? What version of the browser are you using? What does your family history look like? So really, it's not a nuisance offer. It's something that makes sense. Now, on the other side of the coin, you also have to look at where can the corporation get the maximum bang by leveraging that perishable inventory. And so what is the lifetime value of that customer if you're a hotel or an airline? So there's many, many great examples of this. And if there's a high chance that somebody will do something, then perhaps you don't want to make the offer. But if there's only a 20% chance, then you might want to give them some incentive. So it's really a science. They call it loyalty science, but it's evolved well beyond that. And again, to me, it's all about the math. The answer lies in the math, and you can use it to prevent fraud. You can use it to make customers happy and make them fans. You can use it to stop power outages. But that way of thinking is applicable in a variety of fields, and including, by the way, how do you said you're going to see LeBron James later tonight. Right. How do you defend against LeBron James?
Right. Well, that math, hopefully the Celtics have figured out, but I'm guessing he'll have his 30-plus points tonight. So we had an incredible data scientist on the show a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Michael Wu of Lithium Technologies, and he talked about maturity of organizations that are data-driven, starting from descriptive analytics to predictive analytics to prescriptive analytics, where you can take data to insight to rapid decisions and actions to deliver value to a customer. So I'm going to go to the Celtics tonight to watch the team play against LeBron. And every time I go to the Celtics, I buy my clam chowder before the game starts. I'd love to, at some point, get to the Garden, and when I Foursquare check in and tweet that I'm there, have the Celtics or whomever offer to deliver the clam chowder that I get at every game, and I go to lots of games, to my seat. Because if they invest in a CRM solution, if they have social analytic tools, and they want to turn me from a fan to a raving fan, it would be awesome.
Yeah, so we do all those things, Vala. So those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, but even well beyond what you're saying. And so you won't even have to pull your phone out. The building will recognize you. And even before you come to the game, it'll direct you, how to get there, where to park, how to get to your seat. And if you're a regular, it'll ask you that, hey, do you want your usual? And so all of that is, that's just, that's a layup. So we're talking about going well beyond that. And those are things we already do.
Is it the Kings or the NBA in general?
The Kings. The Kings. And, we're helping other teams, and so we're working, with the Bulls and with the Raptors and with Manchester United and so on. So we're with a few teams to help them with this. But there's, it's the back end that matters, and obviously, the front end has to be engaging, and it has to be something that people want to use. But then the secret sauce is the back end. The back end is where you look at each person and you create a profile of that person, and the predictive, the prescriptive, and all of that is in what I call the psychological router. So it goes well beyond just, well, I'm coming to the games, I'm always getting clam chowder. You should have that. But you want to do a lot more than that.
Do you see gamification principles during the 3 hours that the folks are in the stadium? For example, bid for the headband or the sneaker of the athlete, and at the end you have a leaderboard, and the highest bidder gets the sneaker, and you donate some to charity, and now you have folks that are super engaged while they're watching the game.
Yeah, so we're completely gamifying everything, and we're using so in the state of California, it's not sports betting is not legal yet.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're using loyalty points to do all that. So you keep gathering loyalty points, and then those loyalty points can be redeemed for go shoot free throws with Krigsman, or if you get a lot of loyalty points, ride on the plane to an away game. But we're also in parallel working with the governor's office to really push the envelope on how quickly can we legalize sports betting. And I know that Adam Silver wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times, I think yesterday, on this very subject. So the kind of gamification you're mentioning, we're doing a lot of that already without actually having to cross over to make it sports betting by using things like loyalty points.
Got it.
So the connective tissue then for all of this is the ability to collect data and then to determine how to use that data in some meaningful way.
That is absolutely right. So you have to collect the data, and then oftentimes, and I refer to it as fast data. So a lot of the older companies, they'll have you believe that big data equals big database, but a lot of that is transactional data, and oftentimes the real-time data is much more valuable because that gives it much greater context. And so if you're walking towards the store as opposed to walking away from the store, that might be important context to have. Who you're with, if you're not with your usual group, if you're with a bigger party, that could be important context. And so what we do is we look at what I call fast data, where we're looking at real-time data, and then we're combining that with historical context to then come up with the exact right thing, and I call that fast data. So all the kinds of things that you're describing, Vala, is exactly what we're doing. But I believe that you need that real-time data in order to make it extremely contextual. Because if it's not contextual, then it just ends up being spam.
Right.
But we have I'm sorry.
As you were thinking about that, and you used the word fast, certainly you need the technology, you need lean processes, you need empowered employees, but you also need certain core competencies, like, will the NBA now start hiring data scientists to be part of their marketing organization? Because
without question. Without question. I think most NBA organizations are already heading in that direction.
Okay.
And so, the same software that we use to find what combinations of drugs will cure what kinds of cancers, the same software is being used to figure out, how do we give fans the ultimate experience and make them the exact right offers and serve them in a way that that they basically become, as you said, raving fans.
Sure. Now we have a couple of questions from Twitter, and we love questions from Twitter because they're our constituency. So we have an interesting one from Zachary Jeans, who says, the concept of marrying perishable inventory with customer experience, how does that play out in the realm of nonprofits?
In the realm of nonprofits?
Yes.
Well, we actually work with people like Doctors Without Borders, and that's a great example where it's actually no different than any other business, and the inventory there is the time of the doctors, and the supply is or the demand is the demand for the doctors, and so the supply and the demand are both you need to marry those two together. So the nonprofits would be able to deliver much greater value and benefit to their constituents if they were able to, on the one hand, capture the demand side of the equation, the people who need the help from the nonprofit, those are their fans,
Sure.
And then on the other hand, capture the supply side, which in the case of Doctors Without Borders is the doctors who are volunteering, and that's a perishable. If you do nothing this weekend, and you could have been helping somebody, then that time is gone. It's perishable. So I think that the nonprofits can actually be transformed through thinking of them as a social network married to perishable inventory.
Sure. A question regarding technology and fan engagement. I know there are companies that are looking at, this was a rugby example where the referee is wearing Google Glass and streaming his view to other fans wearing glass near a proximity. Do you see that at some point, NBA referees perhaps wearing glass-like technology, and where you can have the actual feeling that you're on the court while you're watching, or Oculus Rift with virtual reality, where you can have courtside seat experience streamed to folks that are wearing the technology? Is that something that we will see potentially in the next few years?
Yeah, so we became, I don't know if you were aware of this, Vala, but we became the first NBA team to do both, actually. So we became the first team to actually have players and our dance team and like me, sitting in the front row wearing Google Glass, so people could get a view of what I was looking at. Or what our cheerleaders were seeing, or we even when the players were out there, what it looked like. So we became the first NBA team to do that, and we also became the first team to actually use Oculus Rift. And so we use Oculus Rift extensively in everything we do, including you could put Oculus Rift on and you can actually walk through the arena, our new arena, and pick out your seats and see what the view is going to be from those seats. So we do all of that, and we'll provide multiple views to all our fans, and so you'll be able to pick out which view you want to look at, from which point of view you want to see the game, or see the ball, see the players, and of course that will include those views as well. So the things you're talking about, we actually became the first team in sports to announce the use of Oculus Rift, the use of Google Glasses. We actually became the first team to say that we would accept Bitcoin. So we're pushing the envelope on all of these areas.
Remarkable. You are so far ahead.
Yeah, really.
You are so far. I mean, again, I have the privilege of working with several professional leagues and teams. It's stunning how far ahead you are. Congratulations to you and your team. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So we have another question from Twitter, and I'm parsing everything. I'm parsing the questions and trying to think about this so systematically, because you're laying so much on it, and I just want to. I wish we had a few hours that we could spend to kind of drill into.
Vivek is dropping a lot of science on us.
Exactly, to drill more deeply in this. So we have a question from Frank Scavo, who's one of the top enterprise software analysts, industry analysts, and he's pointing out that you're describing these kind of strong overlaps between what you're doing with TIBCO and what you're doing with the Kings, and so Frank is asking, is what you're doing with the Kings in a sense R&D or practical applications, another way of saying it, for TIBCO, and how do you think about that? Those
Yeah, no, he's 100% right. So basically, everything I'm describing, we use TIBCO technology to do. And now, in the old days, you would do a demo, and we have a executive briefing center where we can say, look, just imagine how this could transform your business. Now what I do is I just take them to a Kings game. I say, well, let me show you what we're actually doing. And so he's 100% right. It's the same. It's all TIBCO technology that we're using, and that the Bulls will be using, and some of the other teams will be using. And this actually is a showcase. But to be fair, there were other people who actually preceded us. So the first company to actually do this with TIBCO was Harrah's. My friend Gary Loveman, who runs Harrah's, where basically they have a problem where customers come to Harrah's to lose money. So how do you get them to keep coming back? And so they applied all these concepts with the TIBCO technology, where we were able to predict, what your tolerance was for losing, and there were all these perishable assets, seats at magic shows and restaurant buffets, and how did you marry those? So it started over there. Then we worked with Citibank, and we helped Citibank with it. And then we worked with some hotels and airlines. And so now with the Kings, we pushed it even further, and we'll keep pushing the envelope. But he's absolutely right that it's one and the same, and the Kings are a great showcase for us in terms of what these businesses will be able to do in the future.
So let's change gears. We have about 10 minutes left. So let's change gears for a moment. So we at CXOTalk love startups and entrepreneurs, and of course you've been an entrepreneur for many, many years. So to what extent does TIBCO or you personally invest,
or the Kings,
or the Kings
yeah.
Invest in startups and enterprise or consumer startups?
Yeah, I do a lot of that, and so does, and I do it on my own. I do it with TIBCO. So we're big believers in that. We're always looking at things, so either I do it directly or I do it indirectly. I was involved with Google or with Yahoo, with a bunch of the early success stories, and I'm doing this right now. I think we live at a time where there's unprecedented opportunity. This is an incredible time to be an entrepreneur. The next 15 years, we're going to have more change than we saw even in the last 15 years. And the planet is going to be a dramatically better place 15 years from now. So this is a fantastic time to be an entrepreneur. It's a fantastic time to invest in startup companies, and I will continue doing that.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are watching the show and they want to connect with you, or they want to be able to acquire your interest in what they're doing? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs?
Well, just email me, and I'll look at what you're doing. And I love smart people. At TIBCO, I'm not like I'm the dumbest guy at the company. I've surrounded myself with people way smarter than me, and so I love interacting and talking to smart people. I love big ideas, so I'm open to ideas, and I'm all ears. And so now people that are smart, people that have passion, people that have energy,
sure.
And people that are open. Those are the kinds of people that I think succeed in the entrepreneurial game.
Is there a particular, we've talked about mobile platforms and social technologies, wearables, Internet of Things, and is there a particular area that you feel you have a passion? Of course, big data and fast data and analytics, certainly a cornerstone of the work you've done. Is there a particular area that you see flourishing in the next 5 to 10 years ahead of the other mega trends?
Well, I think that the application of data to different fields and how those fields get disrupted. So I like things where you have an opportunity to go nonlinear with something. And I believe that all of the areas you mentioned will cause that kind of nonlinearity. So we recently invested in a company that is going to make basically manage all the LEDs on the planet. So the outside lights will be replaced with LEDs, and once you do that, then it's a smart light. It has a sensor, it puts out information, and you can have a cloud service managing all the lights. And so when you're driving through a shopping center, it'll sense the car coming, and the lights will come on as you drive through. I invested in another company that basically is moving to big data for agriculture. So rather than flood the entire field with water and fertilizer, you're able to pinpoint each plant and give each plant exactly the right amount of water and the right amount of fertilizer and nutrients. So that's big data for agriculture. Another company I invested in is causing a disruption in the storage space. And so the guy that started it used to work for me, one of the smartest guys I know. And what happened with virtualization of servers will start happening with virtualization of storage. And when he came to me, I just said, hey, you're a smart guy, whatever you do, I'm writing you a check, take it, and let me help you. And that company has taken off like a rocket. So I like big ideas, I like things that cause disruptions, and I think there's a lot of that's a lot of it out there right now. In fact, my friend Mark Andreessen likes to say that he likes to invest in bad ideas because the big companies are already chasing the so-called good ideas. So when he sees somebody with a bad idea,
Sure.
that gets him excited, and that's a good way to put it. I like guys that are big thinkers, non-linear, and have the smarts and passion and energy to make it happen.
Do you see these investments, or just in general, either at TIBCO specifically or more broadly, do you see these types of startup and entrepreneurial investments being a kind of supplement to the innovation efforts inside corporations, inside the company?
Yeah, it's no secret that many of the jobs are being created by small companies, and it used to be that it would take 65, 70 years to have turnover for the average S&P 500 company. Now it's happening every 15 years. So we're at a time when we don't even know. Google is already a legacy company. Facebook is already a legacy company. There's somebody out there that's going to disrupt them. So I think that it's much harder for bigger companies to have that kind of innovation. Now at TIBCO we've succeeded in doing that. So when I look at 5 years out, then 5 years ago I said half my revenues in 5 years will come from products I don't have today, and we've made that happen consistently. So it's not as easy in a bigger company, but certainly it can be done.
It's amazing to think that a 15-year-old Google and 10-year-old Facebook and maybe even a 7-year-old Twitter are legacy companies, and you have Ubers of the world, and that are valued in the billions, and really transforming businesses, combining mobile, social, cloud technologies, all aimed at really improving the user experience. I mean, are we just living in an experience economy where convenience will win always, and therefore, as you innovate, you really need to think about the user experience as top-of-mind goal in terms of any product or solution you build?
Well, Civilization 3.0 is about extreme value and extreme service, no question about it. And so 15 years ago, who would have dreamt that you could be sitting in your house and you could just press a button and then a black car would show up a few minutes later with a polite driver? Or who could have dreamt that you could order any product from the comfort of your couch and have it show up the next day? So certainly convenience and just ease of use, and the less friction the better. So all of those are important. But at the end of the day, you also have to have a great product and a great service, because everybody discovers everything much faster now. So if it's good, they'll find out fast, but if it's bad, they'll also find out fast. So I think that that's an important part of the equation. I think we're just living at a time where it's all about the data. And so, if you look at what the world might look like in 15 years, I believe there isn't an industry that's not going to be disrupted. I predict in 15 years, most medical disease diagnosis will be done by a computer. And I predict that many of the diseases that we're facing today, AIDS and Ebola and so on, malaria, will actually be behind us. And so the planet will become a significantly better place in 15 years. And by the way, in 15 years, wearables will be legacy because people will have moved on to implantables or tattoos. And so the world's going to keep evolving rapidly.
So we have literally 1 minute left. Maybe can we close? You tell a story of your first meeting with Salomon Brothers and selling to them, and you use the phrase having fire in your eyes. What does it mean to have fire in your eyes?
Well, when I was a little startup, my first big deal was with Salomon, and we had what they called a bake-off, and we competed with big companies like IBM. And there was a final meeting where the head of technology asked me to come to New York, have lunch with him, and he said, "Okay, tell me why I should give you the order." And so I said, "Well, I got the technology, it's real time, it's scalable, blah blah blah." And he was puffing a nasty selling cigar, and he said, "Tell me." And he blew the smoke in my face. "Tell me." So I said, "Well, maybe he didn't hear me." So I kind of rewound and started repeating all the reasons, and he looked bored, and he just blew more smoke in my face. So finally, I looked at him straight in the eyes, and I said, you know, Mr. Managing Director, the fact that my technology scales the best and is real time and low latency and all of these other reasons, those are not good reasons. There's only one reason why you should give me the order. So he stopped, he put his cigar down, and he looked at me, and I said, it's because we have fire in our eyes. And he said, huh? And I said, yeah. I said, go look at my band of engineers who are on your trading floor, and you're never going to find people who are more passionate, who are going to work harder, and who are more committed to your success than we are. And that's fire in the eyes. So if you're going to start a business, have the fire, keep the fire, and you'll be successful.
That is inspiring beyond belief. That's awesome.
And that is a great way to end.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
We have been talking with Vivek Ranadive, who is the founder, chairman, and CEO of software company TIBCO, as well as the lead owner of the Sacramento Kings. And Vala?
I'm going to have to start rooting for the Kings. I can't believe I said that.
Okay.
In front of a Boston.
All right, we have,
native.
okay. And I see the crowds gathering outside with pitchforks.
I just lost 10,000 followers on Twitter who are Boston fans. Thank you so much for sharing your vision and your wisdom, and truly inspiring. And I can't wait to learn more. And it's just an honor to have the opportunity to talk with you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure and my privilege, guys. Mike, Vala, thank you so much.
Vala, as always.
Great show.
It is, you know, CXO-Talk is the highlight of my week, and I want to thank everybody for watching and urge you to come back next time on CXO-Talk. Bye-bye.